'Twas the night before Christmas, and all through the house, not a creature was stirring, not even a...
Why? That stupid Santa never gives me what I want. Nothing but bags and bags of coal. Well, I'll show him. Once I get my hands on that bag of his, I'll sell all the toys inside and make so much money, and give everyone else the rottenest Christmas ever. Wahahaha!
This man filled with greed was evil indeed. To steal all the toys from the girls and the boys. Will he put up a fight all through the night, or be left in the cold with nothing to hold? Between Santa and Wario, these two will now bout. Will it ruin this Christmas? Let us find out. Ho ho ho! Merry Christmas! 'Tis the season for caring, but it seems that one individual doesn't care for anyone but himself. Wario's greed is unlike any other, but that won't help him get his hands on Santa's magic bag here. I know he's very vague to speak, but we have a general idea of all of Santa's powers and abilities. But before we get into all that, let me start with what I think is enough for Santa to win this alone. Wario isn't finding, let alone getting his hands on him. The Jolly Man is known for being unbelievably stealthy. Between all the traps, late night watchers, and countless other people trying to catch him, nobody has even spotted him before. He's just going to be so hard to even find. He already has to worry about millions of people trying to catch him in large numbers. This would just be one more, and we even have an answer to how he pulls all of this off.
He sees you when you're sleeping. He knows when you're awake.
Constant awareness of everyone. Same reason he knows if you've been naughty or nice. He's going into this night already knowing anything that Wario could be planning. On top of that, he probably should already know who he is. If he's the Santa of the Mario world, then there's quite literally nothing Wario could do to catch Santa off guard. Even if he wasn't Mario Santa, just the constant awareness should still cover up that problem. If Wario's planning something bad, Santa can easily take steps to avoid him. Wario doesn't actually have any means to track him. If you want an idea of how insane Santa's stealth is, we know that his workshop is in the North Pole, and yet, after centuries, nobody has found it. With all the space satellites we have to view the world at any angle, you'd think that we'd be able to spot a large-scale workshop at some point over the years, but here we are. I guess Batman's not the only magical being roaming the night. Even if Wario somehow found a manageable way to keep his eye on him, that doesn't mean that he's going to get his hands on Santa or his magic bag. The guy's just too fast. I know that stats are relative, but even in that context, Santa's supposed to cover the entire globe in a single night. His sleigh should be reasonably leagues faster than anything Wario has. Even on foot, it should be the same. Remember, Santa's not just dropping them off from his sleigh. He gets off of the roofs and delivers them by foot as well, meaning that his foot speed should also be just insane to do this in such a short period of time. Wario may have multiple ways he could fly, but that doesn't mean that it can keep up with the one-horse open sleigh. He does have a big arsenal, as a Mario character naturally most do, however he's still one with far less effective ones to work with. He's not very prominent in the main games, leaving him out of luck when it comes to the much stronger power-ups. Still, what would Santa have to even compete with it? He'd have his magic bag of tricks. This capable thing is able to pull literally anything out of it. Or in some iterations, he can just do it with his hands and magic. Which brings us to the most difficult question to answer in this debate. Between Wario's large set of power-ups and ability, and Santa's anything, which is more versatile. I won't lie, I had a really hard time figuring this one out. I struggled for hours. I even asked Santa to pull a second me out of his bag so we could debate it out. And after a long argument, we came to the conclusion that anything is more useful. After all, whatever Wario can do, so can anything. And more. There's really no angle here that Wario could take that would succeed, and nothing he would do would be surprising. But there's also one more thing to consider behind this whole debate. Santa is a pure soul, passing gifts to the world out of the kindness of his heart. So if word gets out that he's giving Santa a hard time, Wario's not gonna be on just the naughty list. He's gonna be on the world's most wanted list too. I don't think anyone is going to stand by and let Wario pull off such a heinous crime. So while you say he gives a fight, it will always end in a silent night. No matter how hard Wario tries, Santa will always slip right by.
Sinterklaas kapoensje, geef wat in mijn schoentje, geef wat in mijn laarsje.
Welcome to Wario World!
Wahaha! It's me, Adam, and I choose Wario to win this grudge match. I know this is definitely going to land me on the naughty list, but by the end of this, you'll understand how Wario can pull off this Grinch act better than Carrie. Or at least Cumberbatch. Low bar, but still. First of all, I know it's easy to look at Santa as this all-powerful force of Christmas cheer who's always on top of things, and would be more than capable of preventing something like this from happening. That's how he usually gets interpreted anyway. But I'd argue there are way more depictions that definitely don't live up to the holiday hype. Most of them are kind of just an average guy who happens to have some magic on his side, which varies wildly in terms of how impressive it is. Sure, even the weakest Santas can still accomplish more than you or I could, but more often than not, he's not some badass that can just do anything he wants. I mean, if he's really as capable as Flutter says he is, then how come so many other characters have had to save Christmas for him, huh? Not only has he been kidnapped by the Oogie Boogie Man and killed by Tim Allen, there's so many people that have had to do his literal one job for him, or convince him to do so, just because he wasn't feeling up to it that year. Everyone from Sonic to Pac-Man, Fred Flintstone, Mickey Mouse, SpongeBob, even freaking Steve Urkel. The list just goes on and on and on. But perhaps most damning for this scenario, Santa even needed help from the man, myth, and gaming legend himself, Super Mario. Granted, it was the Super Show version of Mario, but that almost makes it worse. He had to get saved from the lamest version of Bowser. So imagine how he's gonna fare against a real-deal Mario character, especially one as tenacious as Wario. If you think this man's gonna give up so easily, you do not know what this dude's gone through just for that bag. Even literally in one case. He's gone through the Shake Dimension, using a glove that just transported them instantaneously, braved treacherous pyramids, went through the depths of space, contended with Bowser, willingly screwed over his employees multiple times, and so on. Point is, there's nothing Wario won't do to feed his greed. Within reason, anyway. These games are still E-rated. Chasing some jolly old soul in a magic hypersonic sleigh across the world to swipe presents is absolutely not below his pay grade. And he also has the means to do exactly that. Not only does Wario have speedy and flying transportation of his own to keep up with Rudolph and the gang, Mr. Kringle definitely won't have an easy time fending him off. Garlic Breath here is just too much of an unstoppable force. You can burn him, electrocute him, freeze him, bury him in snow, squash him, transmutate him, all of it's just another power-up to Wario. And that's not even getting into the various things he can do in return. Even with Santa that can actually kick some ass, Wario's just overall way better and a more consistent fighter. Wario's has already taken on magical reality warping beings like the Black Jewel if we're factoring in the more esoteric Saint Nick. Of course, Wario also has his fair share of tricks to use to his advantage, from power-ups that let him fly and breathe fire, disguises where he can shoot lasers, turning invisible, sucking up any discarded gifts with Kirby breath, turning into the superhero Wario Man, the fact he's strong enough to burst through solid steel at full speeds, to just becoming steel himself as Metal Wario, who's also outright invincible. However you slice it, Wario should have more than enough options to deal with whatever magical Christmas tricks Claus has up his sleeve, and get that... I already made that joke. So let's talk more about that magic Santa has. Across most depictions, the only consistent magical things he has are the bag and the reindeer. Things that Wario could very easily steal with him, as we established, and turn against him. Anything else we see either isn't consistent or has a lot more exploitable limitations on it. There are even specials where the plot revolves around Santa losing that magic due to a lack of Christmas spirit, and a rotten guy like Wario trying to make the holiday all about him is something I imagine would definitely bring down the mood. So this leads me to my final point for now. If the goal here is to prevent Christmas from being corporatized, then at the risk of coming off as a total Scrooge, he's lost that battle long ago. Christmas is easily the most capitalist-approved and corporatized holiday to ever exist. Santa's own likeness has been used to promote everything from Coca-Cola to Oreos to Mercedes-Benz and way more. It already seems pretty complicit with the current state of the holiday spirit, and not even someone like Wario can make that worse, really. All in all, when it comes to Christmas stealers, Wario not only has the best shot out of anyone to not only pull it off, but leave Santa in the dust with all that coal he saved up. Now I just gotta hope I don't get some of that myself.
Wait till they get a load of me! Come on, everybody!
everybody! Let's sing till Santa gets here!
Santa's coming tonight. Santa's coming tonight. And no second-rate rival is stopping him. Power-ups and plans all in the mix, he'll still find himself without Santa's magic bag of tricks. Yes, it is true that sometimes people have had to help Santa across some media, but there's a lot of issues with this. He's been doing this for centuries and maybe only a few times has needed help despite all these potential problems. Catching Santa slipping is an extremely rare sight. But even if he does, as you have proven, everyone is willing to help Santa out. Wario isn't just going against one magical beings, but most beings on this planet, big or small. Wario's gonna have a much harder time when Ralphie pulls out the BB gun he got from last Christmas with sights set on the big yellow man. Sure, one might not be a problem, but when the rest of the neighborhood, city, and US military jump in, then he's in a pretty bad spot. He can only do so much when there's not really anyone out there to support him. Not to say that he's not willing to do this alone, I just don't think he's capable of doing this alone. And the will to not give up is something shared between them. Santa has faced many problems in his past too and has never once stopped. Though they both might have a strong desire to succeed, Wario's will alone isn't damping the Christmas spirit. He might try and bring everyone down to weaken the Christmas spirit and the magic Santa has, but you severely underestimate people's willingness to fight for the holidays if you think in one night he can do anything to ruin it. Many of these instances and films that you bring up has the spirits overwhelm the negative feelings, even when they're at their worst. It's the most wonderful time of the year, and that will never change. Wario could try and catch him on a Christmas where mistakes happen. Maybe he's a little weaker or a little less quiet. Maybe Wario gets a lucky shot in and brings the big man to the ground. That doesn't mean that it's over. It's far from it, actually. All he needs is a helpful hand to get back into the skies, and the world is more than willing to give it to him. Wario has faced some impressive foes over the years, but never anyone quite like Santa, and especially not someone so sneaky with so little time to actually work with. Wario can't outmuscle a problem when he can't even find, let alone get his hands on it. Santa is far more stealthy and aware than anyone Wario has successfully beaten alone. And if these traps actually provide a real problem, Santa is shown in plenty of versions to be able to magically appear in places, fly through any traps, or just avoid Wario at every turn. And no power-up Wario has is keeping up. As I brought up before, Santa's magic bag of tricks and even his own normal abilities can just create anything. Any power-up could easily be replicated, any disguise would easily be seen through, and any gadget has no real hope of keeping up with the sleigh. Santa's bag of tricks is endless, where Wario isn't. And while some versions aren't super quick to fight, I still fully believe Santa will defend himself, just in a non-fatal sort of way. Put Wario to sleep, wipe his memories away of ever even seeing him, or turn his machines into Christmas ornaments. If we want to spread it a little more and go to the Rise of the Guardians movies, just plain kick his ass. He has Wario outplayed in pretty much anything you can think of, and it wouldn't be the first time someone in red took back something of his that Wario tried to steal with a good beating. This night, everyone will hear those sleigh bells ringing and wake up to a tree filled with presents underneath. No Grinch, no Scrooge, and no Wario in sight with presents or magic bag in hand. All was good, all was great, and figgy pudding they did eat. Wario left a lonely soul, only given a bag of coal.
Happy Christmas to all, and to all a good night.
So this is what it feels like to debate for the bad guy. It's kind of fun, actually. Alright, more Santa slandering. I feel like I've already made my point on why Santa's likely not actually this all-powerful entity. I still question how so many people have been able to jeopardize Christmas if he really was as capable as he's made out to be here. But touching on the more specific, he sees you when you're sleepy and knows when you're awake thing, yeah, fair enough. That's a ridiculously broken ability he has. No way Wario would have any way to counter this ability that he definitely has and is always accounted for. I think there aren't several stories and depictions out there who could have easily avoided needing some outside help or the whole conflict and narrative push in the first place if he actually had this ability that he could have taken advantage of. It sure would be useful in a lot of these situations, wouldn't it? Oh hey look, it's a classic Christmas commercial.
Ah! He does exist! They do exist.
Wait a minute, what do you mean they do exist? You somehow missed the giant sentient pieces of candy with your amazing world-spanning clairvoyant abilities, Mr. Claus. Yeah, I'm calling bunk here. Y'all just don't know how to get your kids to behave. I guess in the grand scheme of things, yeah, these slip-ups and off moments are pretty minor when he's been doing this gig for centuries, but it also kind of makes it worse. He's had that long to perfect his craft, and yet he's still making such stupid mistakes that almost lead to him getting exposed. Or worse, falling for obvious tricks and becoming powerless against whatever villain decides to ruin Christmas. I think these are still points against Saint Nick being this infallible being you make him out to be, especially when you consider the original mythos are just that, myths.
Ho, ho, ho! Ha! You are not real! Ho!
Kind of like Nessie versus Bigfoot, where you can bring up a portrayal that actually is some kind of benevolent, godlike being. And I can bring up Arthur Christmas, where he's just a regular guy going senile, and both would be just as legit. Pretty much only thing that's consistent is that he can make his rounds in one night. And all of this is obviously not to say Wario isn't prone to screwing up himself. But as I said before, once he's got his eyes set on a certain treasure, he's not stopping until he either gets it or it's destroyed. Point is, if you've got something he really wants, then you can't afford to make mistakes. One thing's for sure, that doesn't matter if he can't catch him in the first place. Luckily, like I said, Wario has some options. He could simply take that magic globe back from Syrup and teleport himself. He could borrow one of Dr. Krygor's spacefaring devices. Or he could have Dribble and Spitz give him a lift in their taxi that can travel across, quote, the farthest edge of space, and flew them back home over the course of a typical WarioWare session. Like was said before, stats are relative here, but I'm pretty sure that would relatively be able to keep up with his one-night trip. That's assuming he decides to wait until he takes off instead of just ambushing the North Pole before then, like the aforementioned King Koopa did. And you say Wario's never faced someone like Santa before? Well, you're right. I would argue he's faced better. He's defeated an actual genie, ancient spirits, demonic beings, and the aforementioned reality-warping Black Jewel, all of which should have just as much, if not greater potential than Santa's so-called infinite bag of gifts. Especially since they weren't pacifists, so they were actually putting up a fight. Even his super stealthiness I don't see being that much of an issue, considering Wario has outfits that let him see invisible objects, and he's even the boss of ninjas, to the point where he even has a whole Mario Kart track themed around him. This likely won't be his first rodeo when it comes to sneakier tactics either. I also wouldn't count on Christmas miracles coming in clutch to save the day either. Not that I think Wario's gonna destroy the concept of Christmas spirit or anything like that. Like I said, he really can't make it much worse, realistically speaking. Most other characters didn't get involved in Santa's business until he was already in trouble, and most of them are not guys I think he's gonna have to worry about. Oh no, Winnie the Pooh's here to thwart my Christmas scheme? I'm a screwed! And on Wario himself, this dude's has so many opportunities to see the errors of his ways but haven't changed. He's not like Ebenezer or the Winter Warlock where there's some deeper reason why he's like this. Nah, dude's just a greedy fuck. Hell, he even got the Christmas Carol treatment himself, and yet he's still an asshole to this day. So, to summarize, Santa's not all he's cracked up to be, Wario has the means to track him down and catch him, and he's resilient and stubborn enough to keep at it till Mr. Claus runs out of tricks and secures that stack. Sounds like it's shaping up to be a rotten Christmas after all.
Wario! Oh, baby!
I hope you had a holly jolly time listening to our debates. Leave your comments under the comment section and we'll unwrap them in part 2.
I'll admit I feel bad for saying such things against Santa, but hey, at least I didn't deny his existence. And something that also exists are the Galaxy Video Discord server and Patreon, both of which are pretty cool and you should check out if you like what you see here. Happy holidays and see you next time.